Welcome to Bruce Hurwitz Presents Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Bruce Hurwitz of Hurwitz Strategic Staffing. You can find us on the web at hsstaffing.com. I hope you'll consider us for all your staffing, career counseling, and professional writing needs. I am delighted that today I will be joined by Richard Blank, and we'll be discussing gamification pinball machines. Meet the Experts is sponsored by P&K CPAs. P&K is a full-service accounting firm. They provide accounting and consulting services to businesses ranging from startups to small and mid-cap companies to nonprofits as well as high-net-worth individuals. Contact them today for a free consultation at info@pk-cpas.com or call them at 973-882-8810. They will be happy to be of service. Richard, welcome to the show.
We're so happy to be here. Can't believe I'm an expert. You're meeting me today, and I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks, and especially my pinball machines with you and your audience.
All right. Well, first, take a moment or two and introduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Richard Blank. I am the proud CEO of Costa Rica's call center. We're a nearshore dedicated bilingual call center located here in Central America. But I'm also a proud Philadelphian. Grew up in Northeast Philly, and that sort of vigor got me to where I am today.
So the first question I have to ask is, what's the connection between pinball machines and a call center?
Absolutely nothing, but it's almost Tom Hanks in the movie Big. Once I started my business and had that discretionary income, I decided to buy pinball machines before Rolex. And so when you have some money, you decide on how you want to spend it. And I just decided on following through on the passion that I grew up with in the 70s and 80s.
Well, I remember pinball machines. And what I liked about them was the fact that even though you really couldn't change the course of the ball, you grab a hold of the machine and think that you were having some impact on the trajectory of the ball. And I was playing some video game, and I'm moving it like this, and somebody said to me, "What are you doing?" A younger person, couldn't get it. All right, it was just going back to the days of the pinball machines. So I like pinball machines, but what can business owners learn from gamification? And well, first tell us what gamification is, and then I'll ask you about pinball machines.
Oh, a lot of people incorporate that into their company culture. It's gaming through work, through play, through bonding. Now, I never thought that spending your free time doing company exercises was the correct thing. That's your own time. And I was never really into going out having beers with the boss afterwards. I'm not a drinker, but I believe that during office hours, during break time, or during certain sessions, this is a happy medium. It gives somebody a chance to let off steam, recharge batteries, try the machines that you and I grew up with that virtually today don't even compare to on the internet. Elton John had it perfectly when he's talking about a pinball wizard, really feeling this machine, as you were mentioning earlier. Remember not to tilt the machine.
Yeah, I know.
But people fall in love in my game room by the Pac-Man machine. I've had individuals really compose themselves before spiraling out of control to quit or just to have a bad day. And for me, I have the space, and one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I went treasure hunting here. And I believe I have the largest pinball machine collection in Central America, and it's free play. And when people walk in here, it reduces any sort of stress. They realize how I'm going to treat them, how I treat myself. Mm-hmm. And when clients come visit me, I give them a little bit of guilt. I say, hey, how come you're not doing this with your people? And so when it comes down to filtering and water seeking its own level, I believe that certain people gravitate towards my environment that works hard, but the play that we do is healthy play. So you're not on the phone by yourself looking at Instagram, having a cigarette outside, or being alone. I've really created a recess environment. And you know that, Bruce, that was the best class ever, recess. It's when you made your friends. And so I found that to be probably one of the most important aspects of my company, is creating that sort of fun environment and then expanding from there.
Now that's interesting that you should say recess, because for you, recess was fun. For me, it wasn't. It was an opportunity to be bullied. Now, I've seen, I don't know if you're acquainted with it, WeWork. You know what WeWork is?
No.
Okay. It's now been downsized greatly. But for a time in Manhattan, you could not go, there was no empty office space because his company called WeWork took over all of the office space. It was a collective workspace. Different companies would rent offices, and there were common areas.
Sure.
Kitchen, bathrooms, of course, but meeting rooms. And in one of the WeWorks, I guess I can say, there was a ping pong table. And people would go there exactly as you said, and they would play and they would let their tension out on that poor ping pong ball. And they'd have fun with their colleagues.
Sure.
Until the third guy would come and say, I'll play the winner. And that person was a bad sport. And you could see that, well, I missed, I tripped, there's water on the floor, there's this, the sun was in my eyes, there's no sun. You can learn a lot about people from the way they play. It's the old, do you play well with others remark on the kindergarten report card. How do you use gamification as a way of seeing the good and the bad in your employees?
If somebody abuses my machines, as you were mentioning, tilting or banging the machine because they're frustrated, I'll be livid. In fact, I don't like when people put things on top of the machine. I think they have their own spirituality. They've been preserved for 60 years. Don't touch them. These are my team. But it's really about, it's like leading that horse to water. Mind you, my friend, if not all of my agents are in their mid-20s, they've never seen these machines. I have machines going back to 1970. So it's a first for them, besides the backlash marquee, the cabinet, the play field. I mean, it's a piece of work here. It's art, it's beautiful. And it's not for everybody. I don't force them to play. But prior to the first training class, I do throw them all in there so they can relax a little bit, make friends before the class. So it really does reduce tension and increases engagement. But in essence, you were mentioning recess, and I'm sorry that you were bullied, and it's only because of these insecure kids had antisocial behavior. You're like the nicest guy and you're a smart guy. And I think that certain people with good intentions were your friends and they loved you for who you are, Bruce. You didn't need to hang out with the starting quarterback or the head cheerleader. They probably weren't cool. They were pretty, they were athletic, but in essence, they had no depth to them. I mean, especially when you go back to your reunions now, I'm sure you're probably one of the most successful out of all of your classmates. But for me, I was true to myself. I'm a very unique color in the crayon box. And so was I bullied? Not really. I was just misunderstood. I also hit the gym. I was a tri-letterman and I had a lot of good, stable foundation friends. So I was never alone on a Saturday. I always had people that would back me up. And so that one individual that felt intimidated by me, it's for their own insecurities. Maybe they should step up to the plate a little bit more. Maybe they should show up on time. They're afraid to ask a girl to dance. Well, then have a bad time. It's not my fault that you're not prepared. And so these are sort of the things that you need when you're growing up to build character and self-reliance. It's easier said than done. But I did have certain individuals at my high school, at Abington High School, that I believed were winners. fact, you're not going to believe this. I had two individuals that graduated with me, Eddie George and Sean Wood, and they both went to play in the NFL. And yeah, so I mean, I had some real players in my grade. I had people that stepped up.
Literally.
And so when you're comparing yourself with excellence, you can only get better. And so I guess I was very lucky to grow up with people that loved themselves and that were united and that were willing to, push you a little bit to get better, but not break you. And so I guess, my friend, it's nurture, not nature. It's the sort of environment that I was in that enabled me to give me this sort of self-reliance and self-confidence. And it also took me to that next level. I was critiqued a couple of times. Certain business owners will white glove me and look at it as something that's unprofessional, or that we should use that space for more computers or for more lockers or something that's business related. You have your company, I have mine, and I decide what to do with my space. And the fact that the market speaks, I've been in business almost 16 years, grew to 150 seats. It's in my mind, that was the destiny. Those stars were aligned. And I can look at myself at the end of the day and know that I'm having fun while doing this. Even though we're adults and we're bald, it doesn't mean we can't have fun. So I'm really trying to stress people to have that sort of work-life balance here to recharge their batteries. So when they leave the office, Bruce, and they can confront any sort of challenges that they have, so they can be fresh when they come back the next day.
Well, as I've explained to numerous children who have asked me what happened to my hair, and I'm sure you will concur with this, as your brain fills with knowledge and wisdom, it expands and it pushes the hair out. So the more intelligent you are, the less hair you have.
That's what you say. I say it's my mother's guilt. Family guilt will make you lose your hair.
I didn't know you were Jewish. Now, you said something that was a great segue to what I wanted to ask you. You said playing with excellence.
Yes.
On a different show, I mentioned the fact that I had been addicted to 3 video games: Minesweeper,
Okay.
Pool, 8-ball, 9-ball, and what was it through? Oh yeah, Texas Hold'em. And I was good. I won $1 billion playing billiards, 8-ball, on computer, all fake money. I'm not stupid. But when I started to play, I wasn't very good. And and you could choose who you could play with. And I was playing against beginners. And then I said, no, this isn't good. I have to play against people who are better than I am. It's the only way I'm going to learn. I have to watch and see how they're going to beat me. I'm going to lose. It's going to ruin my average, but big deal. So I played against people who were 1, 2, 3, multiple levels above me, and then I won all the awards.
You beat me so fast.
Pardon me?
So fast, Daddy, for some money down in Jersey. That's great. I love when people are winning, but be careful of Forrest Whitaker. Remember, he schooled Fast Eddie and told him he needed to lose some weight.
No real money. I wasn't going to do that. When you are, I'm trying to see what else can come from pinball machines to a call center. Now you've got team building.
Sure.
Hand-eye coordination really doesn't come into play.
Absolutely, it most certainly does. Oh, without a doubt. That's why musicians and artists, right? They're working certain other parts of their brain. Myself being bilingual, it just bears the mark of higher education. But once again, you're working other areas you might have never worked before. Oh, this hand-eye coordination is excellent. It's still working that brain. You're not doing translations and using semantics and phonetics, but you are definitely doing that sort of concentration and focus. It's like a boxer. You just can't have blind strength. You also need strategy. You do need timing. If somebody has their hand-eye coordination with the flippers, they're timing it. And if they're on the phone, they're going to be living in the now. They're going to be spontaneous. They're going to be able to anchor with you. So, my good friend, I think that anything that is positive can be incorporated in you almost in an eclectic way, to where if you need to pull it out or have something in common with somebody, or just being in a really, really good mood after lunch instead of being lethargic because you ate McDonald's, it's helped. It really has helped. And I'm a firm believer in it. I believe in decompressed stimulation. I believe in image streaming. A lot of people, like Einstein, he thought of that theory of relativity on the train. What about Newton when he was under the tree and the apple hit him in the head with gravity? You need to remove yourself from that circle, from the office, from the friends, from wherever you're at, where you just get used to it, right? And then when you have that chance after 20 minutes or so in that long shower, the walk, the gym, or whatever else, to find that area, that's when you know you get your priorities and you get your best ideas,
So you
Bruce.
have your it relaxes you, or it gets your mind off your problem. So you can do a thought experiment and come up with a theory of relativity,
Yes.
or all of a sudden you come up with an idea for the next article you want to write, and the dam has been broken and the block is gone, and you can now write again.
That's right. Or you put something to bed after you've pondered it, slept on it, wrote the draft and not sent it. You realize that you overextended yourself, or it's time to call Bruce and apologize for your tone because you were snippy. And so I think
Or
these
for wearing a tie on his show when he doesn't wear a tie.
of course,
Now,
just in case our mother shows up, I have to be at the ready.
yeah,
But
okay, listen, I don't get involved with mothers. I learned that a long time ago.
it's the magic dust.
Yeah.
I've seen this thing really change people for the better.
When you have, you said that there are multiple games there. Not games. What would you call them? Machines
Oh yeah.
in the room. So you've got two people who are playing beside each other, and one is having a terrible time. The other one is doing well.
Yeah.
The one who's not doing so well asks the one who's doing well what they're doing wrong. And then they watch and they critique how they're playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I'm sure that has happened. If I'm off base, tell me. But does that also translate into the workplace, and the person who asked for help or who was asked for help will listen to what that individual is doing on the phone and walk over and say, listen, I got an idea. I've got a suggestion for you. Can the play relationship translate to the work relationship?
For momentum moving forward, yes. For hitting the ball and dragging Johnny, no. You need to do your homework. I'm not going to do it for you on the bus. People need to be pacing. They need to be at the same area. Like, for an example, if people are playing these pinball machines, the greatest thing to do, instead of just hit the ball everywhere and randomly, you should learn the game. You should learn the scoring and the points and how to trap a ball and what to do. So you're not just randomly banging it around. You can really strategically play these games. Not only does it last longer, scores go up, you start getting free games, the whole shebang. But I like to see people that have dedicated practice. I like extra efforts. I don't want you to work for me for free. But if you come to me the next day and go, hey man, I watched a couple of YouTube videos on this 1970s Bally's Camelot pinball machine you have, and I realized how to get this extra scoring. And I saw this and I'm going to practice it today. That's my main man. I mean, that's somebody that I see is really doing it. And it's not just pinball. I got an Alpine Racer ski machine, which is funny in Costa Rica because no one's skied before. I got an air hockey table, which is wickedly cool because I'm a Flyers fan and I love my hockey. You know, you got your ultimate fighting machines and all this other stuff. And that's what most of the agents want to play. These fighting games. Well, I have these beautiful antique machines from the 70s and 80s that sometimes people play, but it's really not their style.
So that's their way of getting their anger out on the person they called and hung up on.
You're bringing up excellent points. And Bruce, I love where you're going with this. My mindset, it's always, I know that there's sour for sweet and light and dark. And I believe in romantic deaths. You should not be in this industry. If someone says F you or hangs up on you, ruins your day. You're a boxer, you're going to take one in the chin. This is just how it goes. Yeah. So I believe that if you have certain structure, if you go into calls where in the first 30 seconds, you're doing a company name spike by saying, hey, how's Meet the Experts doing today? Bruce, nice to meet you, and I could properly introduce myself, possibly do a positive escalation when I get transferred from your gatekeeper to you, who gave me the pass to pitch. I'll do meeting minutes. I'll do it verbally and in writing. If I can do these sort of things every 30 seconds, I jump clouds. So regardless of the outcome, I'm still playing a perfect hand. You're a gambler. Sometimes the odds, no matter how you play, are against you. And so if you're a professional and you have this structure, and you're getting good scores and quality assurance, and you're doing exactly how you do, this is nothing. It's almost like Bruce Lee that licked and tasted his blood. You almost want that rejection to do the rebuttal. You're prepared for this. This is not for the faint of heart. But if you can build these soft skills, and you mentioned, if I did something wrong, what could I do for it? You're playing with athletes that are better than you. Well, if I have somebody on the phone that throws a curveball at me and I wasn't prepared for it, that's an excellent place for you to start studying. And so you have to be relentlessly positive. Sorry, but that's just how it is for me. I wake up every day, I make my bed, I hit the gym, and I click my heels, drive to work in a convertible, shake everybody's hand here. And at the end of the day, you could say, Baruch Hashem, thank you for another day. It's another day that I survived. It's another day I fed families. And so this is a little bit of a deeper mission than just making money or making phone calls and stuff. I'm trying to pay it forward, really, really, so they don't have a heavy heart and they don't take these things. And so I'm not saying how you think is incorrect, but my good friend, if you and I were going to walk into that ring, think of my philosophy and my mindset. I'm as strong as the day is long, and I've prepared for this thing. So in essence, it's really just going into a natural motion. And if I can get these people to have that sort of mindset, don't be surprised. If they're earning more than most vocations, my attrition gets reduced. And people knock on my door, not just to apologize for something, but to say, hey, I just closed the biggest deal and I want to tell you about it. That's my positive reinforcement. That's what gets me out of bed and keeps me doing this every day, Bruce.
If I want to correct one thing you said, I am not a gambler. Right? I was a game player, not a gambler. This is what you wrote about what viewers would learn from this interview.
Okay.
Taking a chance, advanced telemarketing strategy, conflict management, interpersonal soft skills, customer support, rhetoric, gamification, pinball machines, employee motivation, and phonetic micro expression reading.
Where do you want to go? That's a big
I want to know what in God's name phonetic micro expression reading means. Phonetic, okay.
Okay.
Next.
People do micro expression reading. You've looked at people with their body language. Well, why don't we look at phonetic expression reading? Since I'm on the phone, it's sight unseen. I lose 3 of my senses, taste, touch, and smell. Your hearing should be expanded, so you should have bunny ears. But I also believe in image streaming, adjectives, descriptions, and imagination. So you can actually have your visual on a call. Now, I believe that people have tell signs when they speak. It could be a first time read with somebody, but they do have spikes and dips. And if they do, that's a timeout. That's when you ask a clarification questions for checkpoints to be able to move forward. Let me give you an example. Phonetics, Bruce, is broken down into 4 sections: tone, rate, pitch, and duration. Your tone is your emotion. That's your consistent variable. In my opinion, you should be empathetic and confident. Great. You should mirror image the rate and the pitch, the speed and the sound Why? Because I'm a loud, fast talker from Philly. I don't want you to match me. I need to match you there, not your tone, but that speed. Why? Because if you spike or you dip, as I mentioned before, that's a tell sign to ask a sounds good, makes sense, maybe we move forward sort of question. But you want to know what the real tell sign is, because tones, rates, and pitches could be manipulated. It's the answering speed. That's your subconscious. And so usually that's when people are giving you the largest tell sign. It's usually when they're facetious. And you should ask them a clarification question with one of your five senses to see if they can back it up. And that's what we do on the phone. There's about 10 checkpoints on a 10-minute phone call, placed sporadically, just to ensure that we are moving forward on these calls. So that spike and dip is purely sound. It can be done in any sort of language. And if you do your XY chart and you match where people are going, in my opinion, after listening to tens of thousands of phone calls, besides the work that you're doing, you can make this as a habit just to see if somebody is off a little bit, to ask them these questions. It can reduce any sort of conflict because you are showing attentive, active listening. You could be repeating the notes to them in a sense. You're waiting for a reinforcement to see if you need to answer a question for them, or listening for those sounds. These are the soft skills. It's not excuse me, it's for my clarification. I never use the word help. I use words like guide, assist, and lend a hand. I also use the military alphabet because you might have served. And it's probably the best way not to have an email bounce back.
Yeah.
Just things to anchor with and just to have in common. And as I mentioned before, that positive escalation where I compliment the gatekeeper to you verbally, and I do it in writing when I happen to call your company back, I'm giving a hero's welcome. I'm giving momentum and more company culture. And that's usually how I've been able to build pipelines and close deals like that. And so it's all the same. It's the art of speech. Most people are lazy and they prefer non-voice omni-channel support, like through chats and emails. But you and I know you've pressed zero and you would love to speak to someone that might be able to retain you as a client, maybe have an upsell, possibly get a referral. And you and I both know this as business owners. The greatest thing you could ever get is an exit interview. Even though you might be losing the account, they're going to give you $1 million bit of advice on what you've done wrong and what your competition has done to earn their business. And so don't misinterpret these signs. The Godfather spoke in a loud whisper, and people that scream at you could hug you at the end. So I never judge a book by its cover. I just look for consistent patterns in a certain controlled environment. And if you can take out emotion and look at something as an arbitrary and a neutral way, then I think you'd probably be able to make the most educated decisions.
I have two more questions I want to get in. First, is it correct? I always tell my career counseling clients that when they are having a phone interview, they should have a mirror in front of them and they should smile, because the smile will come across in their tone of voice.
Of course.
Okay, yeah. So that is true.
Mm-hmm.
Second, what aggravates me the most when I get a call from somebody, a cold call, sales call, is when the first question is not, do you have time to speak with me? Is there anything that you teach your agents, I believe that's the word you've been using, your agents to ask to initiate the conversation? After, may I please speak with blah, blah.
Oof, you sound like a telemarketer when you do that. I believe in name spikes. It's either the name of your company or your address, or if it's a business to consumer call and you pick up, I'm going to go, hey, Bruce, I'm going to assume it's you, unless your wife answers. I'm going to say, Miss Hurwitz, is your husband there? And so I'm not lying. I'm just saying the name Bruce in a certain way of somebody that I know. I got a bunch of friends named Bruce, even though you and I are spending time today. I've had friends for 20 years named Bruce. So I sometimes think of that name that I've said 1,000 times with great friends. Bruce, my man, that's how you start. Why? Because you're using your anonymity in the beginning of the call and giving them something they know, which is a name. You're not anonymous the whole call. That's shady. But your first impression is you. If it's a MLS, it's 123 Main Street. How's your pretty house doing today? I mean, come on, start strong. You can give yourself points on that. And then what you can gauge is, my friend, when I do the name spike, is their reaction. Oh, sorry. It's the second technique I have. It's called the buffer boomerang technique. Bruce, it's an excellent way for you to be able to adjust the tone. Because you even mentioned you don't like telemarketers. So you could say, who was this?
I never said I didn't like
Negative
telemarketers.
tone. And I'd say, Bruce, that's an excellent question. My name is Richard Blank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buffer your negativity and name drop you. Then I'm going to let you know it's a great question. Glad you brought it up. Going to talk about that.
I
Repeat the
never
question and send it
said
right back to you in a positive.
I never said I don't like telemarketers. I said I don't like people who call up and don't ask if this is a good time.
Bruce, I don't like telemarketers. And I am one. I'm only kidding.
Well, that's okay. I don't like recruiters, and I am one.
No, my friend, listen. I'm not saying that you have credit card at the ready, but I tell you what, if I could buy 30 seconds of time with Bruce, where at least after introducing myself, realizing you don't need my services, but politely hang up the phone and thank me for the call, man, I won. Because at least I got 2 or 3 good shots in there by name dropping you, being happy, saying your address correctly. I mean,
we've had 30 minutes now, and I am politely not dropping the call. I am going to show your contact information, and I'll put us back so people can still see us. And I am going to thank you for coming on, and I'm going to ask you one final question.
Sure.
Is there anything that I did not ask which you wish I had asked? And if I had asked, what would you have said?
Oh, my good friend Richard, do you have any advice for my audience today? And I'd say, Bruce, that's a great question. Of course I do. To not be hard on yourself, okay? And realize that you need to look at yourself in the mirror every day and give yourself 5. When you put your head on the pillow at night and you have those moments of clarity, just realize this. Regardless of the outcome of what happened that day, you did everything with honorable intentions. And if you can think like that, you can give yourself distance. That will be enough to get you through. And I can't thank you enough, Bruce. I had the best time. You're a mensch.
I want to thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I'm going to give you some free employment advice. If you want to change your profession completely and totally, you have a voice that would be very good for audiobooks for children. So now think about that for 1 minute. We'll discuss it when we come back. But for right now, I'm Bruce Hurwitz. Thank you for watching. And as always, please stay focused on success.